Hey, what is going on guys? Overzed Stealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the top lane tier list for patch 8.15. And just one thing to point out before we get into the video, I'm not going to be rating Akali for this patch, just mainly because whenever a new champion does get released or a champion gets reworked, the players playing the champion in that patch are probably only going to be first timing the champion. They're not going to have a ton of experience on the champion, so it doesn't give you a good gauge as to how good the champion is throughout the first patch. Right now, Akali's sitting at like a 35% win rate in this patch, and obviously she's probably not that bad of a champion. She's not a 35% win rate champion, but based off of data in this patch and based off of other people's opinions, it's just really hard to tell exactly where she would slot in for this patch. So to start it off here in tier 1, the king of the top lane right now, Aatrox, is just a very strong bruiser pick, and he's honestly one of the strongest blind pick top laners that you can play for this patch. He just does not really have any hard counters in the laning phase right now. Even against ranged champions like Quinn, Aatrox can actually stack up against Quinn not too bad in the laning phase because of Aatrox's Q, because it does have a pretty long range and you can extend that with your E as well. You can actually get onto ranged champions like Teemo or Quinn quite easily in the laning phase. And because Aatrox just does have a ton of damage in the early game, he's very hard to outduel. If you're in a melee matchup, then most times you're just going to be able to bully out the enemy top laner in the laning phase, and once you do reach your level 6, your 1v1 potential and even your 1v2 potential is some of the best for any top laner. Aatrox is also one of the most forgiving top laners that you can play as well, because he does have the free Guardian Angel there with his ultimate, so even if you go in at the wrong time or you make a bad engage with Aatrox, he's not going to be punished as hard as some of the other top lane picks, and this makes him a really good pick for solo queue because it does allow, or he's a champion that does allow for more mistakes than most other champions. So Quinn is S tier for another patch here in the top lane. Quinn is just one of the most broken champions in the game overall right now. In the bot lane and in the top lane, she's like the best performing champion overall right now. She just doesn't have any counters in the laning phase. You really are not going to lose lane as Quinn as long as you can play this champion to a decent level. Once you do win lane as Quinn, her ability to influence other lanes is pretty much the best for any top lane pick. So you can snowball your lane, you could snowball other lanes, and if you're doing this consistently on Quinn, then you're just gonna have a ton of success with her in this patch. And the nerfs that she did get in this patch, if you are wondering if they affected her at all, they really didn't affect her very much. Like, obviously they're nerfs, so technically she does get weaker for this patch, but the nerfs were very light, and compared to the other top lane champions, she is still the best top lane pick that you can play in this patch, at least in my opinion. So another really good bruiser top lane pick for this patch is Kled. So Kled is basically kind of the melee version of Quinn in a sense, because he can do a very good job in the laning phase, he can win his lane, and he can also do a great job at influencing other lanes as well with his ultimate. Now, one thing that has changed with Kled from previous patches is that Press the Attack is now doing better than Conquer on Kled, and most high elo Kled players are now running Press the Attack instead of Conquer. Soul Mario, who is one of the best Kled players in NA, has now switched over to Press the Attack over Conquer in most of his games right now. So if you're someone who is still running Conquer a lot on Kled, I definitely recommend giving Press the Attack a shot in this patch. It's not like Conquer is bad on Kled, it's still a fine option, but Press the Attack after the Conquer nerfs is now doing better. Kled is also just super good for the meta because he's one of the only top laners that can really force fights and can take initiative and just look for engages if he does see the enemy caught out of position if his team is ahead. If your team gets ahead and you're playing Kled, it's just going to be very easy for you to close out the game if you can play this champion correctly. If you tell your team to group up, look for engages when the enemies are caught out of position, then you're just going to do very, very well with Kled in this patch. So Darius is going to be S tier for another patch here as well. Darius is definitely still a very strong bruiser top lane pick. He doesn't really lose lane. He wins a lot of matchups right now in the top lane, especially up against tank picks. He's going to smash those lanes. He's also going to win most matchups against other bruiser top laners as well. Now for the runes on Darius, Conquer is still the one that you should be looking to run. Phase Rush is also a decent option on Darius. You can run Conquer or Phase Rush, kind of depending on the situation. If you do think you are going to be kited pretty easily in the laning phase and the extra movement speed from the Phase Rush is going to help you stick onto your target, then that would be a good time to run it. If you're in a lane though to where the enemy doesn't have a lot of crowd control, or if they're playing a champion that's melee as well and you're going to be able to get a lot of auto attacks off on them, then Conquer is still going to be a very good choice. Now, if you are playing Darius in this patch, I would definitely recommend banning out Quinn. Darius only has a 40% win rate against Quinn right now, and that's one of the only matchups that he just does never win, and he's not really gonna win unless he does get some sort of jungle presence. So if you're a Darius player, Quinn is probably your best ban for this patch. You can also look to ban something like Teemo or Pantheon or Jace, but I would definitely say that Quinn's probably the hardest matchup right now for Darius. And then to round out the tier 1s for this patch is going to be Camille here for another patch. I just still think that Camille is going to be your most consistent bruiser top lane pick that you can pretty much pick every single game and you're going to be able to have success with her. Camille just kind of has a little bit of everything in her kit, which just makes her a very good pick for solo queue. She's got true damage with her Q, which makes her a really good pick into any tank. She also has really good engage with her E, which makes her a pick that you can really look to pressure your lead with if you do get ahead in the early game, and you can do a really good job at zoning the enemy top laner if you end up getting a lead. She's also hard to gank in the laning phase because her E and the mobility that it does provide her, and the lockdown that you do get with your ultimate just makes her a very good pick at just singling out the most fed target on the enemy team and bursting them out during team fights. If you can win lane on Camille, if you can get ahead, it's not going to matter a ton if the enemy does have a fed AD carry or a fed mid laner, because if you can just engage on them in a team fight, use your ultimate on them, burst them out, then you're gonna do your job and you're gonna be able to win a lot of games on Camille. So for tier 2 in this patch here, and by the way guys, I've kind of switched up the format that I'm going with for tier 2, 3, and 4. I still want to go more into detail about the tier 1 picks and give a little bit more explanation for them, but for tier 2, 3, and 4, I think I'm just going to go with these graphics for now on here and talk about maybe 2 or 3 of the picks for each tier, because there's usually a lot more champions in tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4, so I think that having gameplay in the background just isn't as good, or I just don't think it looks as good as having a graphic. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think of this new tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4, and if you like it opposed to the gameplay. Now I've also here got a little legend in the bottom right there. The green champions are going to be picks that it's only going to take you 0 to 10 games in my opinion to be able to play them at a tier 2 level. For blue champions, it's usually going to take you 10 to 50 games depending on the player, and then for the red champions, 50 to 100 games is usually what you're going to have to put in to be able to play them at a good level. So for Poppy and Malphite here, they're 2 picks right now that I think are very good if you are just looking for a tank or you're just looking to play a top lane champion who's going to be very consistent and that's always going to be able to provide something for your team. That's one of the main reasons as to why these picks are green here as well, because even if you don't really know a ton about these champions, even if you don't really know what you're doing, because they do have really good crowd control and because they are going to get really tanky, you're still gonna be able to have success on them even if you do have limited games. And then for Pantheon there, you could definitely argue he's a tier 1 pick for this patch. The main reason to why I don't have him tier 1 though is because I just think that Quinn and Kled do his job a little bit better for this patch. Quinn and Kled both have pretty good early games, both can influence the map very well with their ultimates, and both don't really get outscaled in the mid to late game as hard as Pantheon does. You need to make sure that you are using your early game to your advantage as Pantheon to your fullest potential, because if you do end up just not having the best early game, or if you do fall behind in the early to mid game, then you're not going to be very useful on the pick compared to Quinn and Kled. So for the tier 3 picks in this patch, these are the B tier champions, basically your average picks for 8.15. So I think that Aurelia right now, she's definitely a lot weaker than she was when she did get released and throughout her first few patches. The changes that she did get in this patch didn't really help her out a ton for either the top lane or the mid lane. They were just kind of power neutral changes to her. So overall, she's still a pick that you can have success on, but because she is red there, I do think you need a ton more games on Aurelia to really be able to play her at a level worth playing in solo queue. And then for Mundo there, Mundo is a pick that was a tier 1 and a tier 2 pick for the past few patches, but I just think that his matchups right now in the top lane are not that great. Against Aatrox, Quinn, Darius even, he's just gonna get destroyed in the laning phase, and I just think that Mundo is at best a good counter pick right now for this patch, and that's why he's in B tier. I don't think that you can blind pick Mundo right now and really have a ton of success on him in 8.15. For tier 4 in this patch, these are just going to be your crap tier, your stay away from these champions in this patch if you're looking to climb tier. So these champions here just really aren't that great for the meta. Nasus right now in the fast-paced meta, even though he did get buffs I think last patch, he's just not a very good pick right now. You're not playing for the late game in this patch, and if you are playing for the late game, you're just probably going to lose more so than not. And then for picks like Shen and Gnar here, they're picks that you're still gonna see in the competitive scene, but for solo queue, they're just really not great picks. Their matchups in the top lane are very weak. They get destroyed by a lot of bruiser top laners right now, especially Gnar. Any champion that has some sort of gap closer is gonna destroy Gnar in the laning phase. They're also picks that do require a lot more coordination to be able to play at their highest level, and that's why you're still gonna see them in the competitive scene, because in a coordinated environment, they're still very good picks, but because you're not gonna find that in solo queue, they're just not very good picks if you are looking to climb. So that is going to be all for the top lane tier list for patch 8.15. If you guys did enjoy this video, then please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching guys, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.